Khali Sakkas, CARMA's Chief Insights Officer, recently came back from the AMEC Summit, and she sat down with me for a conversation where we talked about a wide range of issues, including the Barcelona Principles update, the impact of earned media on GEO, the latest trends and best practices in LLM visibility analysis, and much more. So let's take a listen and see what we can learn. So one of the great things about your role is that you're able to engage with a lot of our peers in the industry, to learn from them, to share knowledge, to come up with standards and approaches that can help improve measurement across the board for all communicators. And one of the great conveners of activities in that space is AMEC. And I know recently you had an opportunity to attend the AMEC Summit, which is an annual event digging into a lot of these meaty issues. And so I want to go into some of the specific topics that you discussed and have been engaging with AMEC on recently. But before we do that, perhaps for those who are uninitiated, can you explain what AMEC is as a starting point?
Thank you, Chip. AMEC is the industry body for measurement and evaluation professionals. It has members across the world, so we are a very global organization. We have a board that runs an advocacy program globally. We're trying to educate people on the best way to measure and evaluate their communications. We're trying to give people the right resources, the right tools to be able to bring that to life. So a lot of AMEC's work is really bringing the industry together, bringing that networking, that sense of community, to share knowledge, to actually make sure that we're learning from each other and continuing to play that role of providing best practice guidance for an industry that really is trying to evolve and always has new things to have to navigate. And obviously now we're looking at GEO and all sorts of new trends that AMEC's playing a role in guiding PR and communicators, but also guiding the measurement industry.
Well, and I think one of the great things about AMEC is that, yes, there's a lot of competition amongst the different players and participants, but there's also that sense of wanting to just, make sure that the rising tide lifts all boats, as they say, that everybody is learning from each other and that we're helping communicators and business executives in order to be able to have the resources, the information and those sorts of things to do better, to be better, and to make sure that measurement and evaluation is key to all communications programs.
Chip, it's a really important point. That rising tide is exactly the goal for AMEC. We have different maturities within our regions. There are some markets that are very, very mature in terms of their evaluation, their learning, the frameworks that they've put in place. There are others that are emerging and trying to evolve and adopt best practice. So AMEC and that rising tide that rising tide image is an incredibly important one that we hold on to. When I come away from these conferences, I have mixed emotions and mixed sort of feedback. I sometimes come back very, very humbled. That there's some really sharp thinkers that are developing tools that we need to be across. So that humbling effect is motivating, right? I come back and talk to CARMA, talk to the team and say, all right, how can we actually make sure that we're developing the best technology for our clients? How can we actually be ahead of the game? So sometimes it's humbling. Sometimes it's nice to get recognition from peers as well. So when we present, a really great case study, or we have a great client come on stage, and as we did this year with Tourism Island, it's nice validation that what we're doing is on the right path, that we're delivering value to our clients. So always a mixed bag, Chip, when I'm flying back from those conferences. You're inspired, you're humbled, you're proud, all at the same time.
Yeah. And so as you came away from this one, as you sat on the airplane, what were some of the key themes that you were thinking about that were turning around in your head that you had a lot of conversations about, that people are clearly focused on and trying to find new and improved ways of addressing? I think you've touched on it a little bit already by mentioning GEO, but just kind of set the scene for some of the key themes, and then we'll start diving into them in specific.
There's two themes, and they at sometimes contradict each other, but I think that you can see both existing in the narratives around the industry, but also the conference. One is that not much has really changed. It's all new, but none of it's new, right? So we still have crises. We're still human beings with emotions that read content and interact with brands. That some of the things just don't change, right? Those fundamentals to communication, to the way human beings interact with information, that hasn't changed fundamentally. The other thing I come away with is, actually, everything has changed. The way that we're searching for information, the discovery part of that process is changing rapidly. So that discovery piece of going from reading from earned media, going through to search, and now the emergence of LLMs, ChatGPT search, but also discovery on social channels is really emerging as one of the major ways that Gen Z are discovering brands and products. So for me, it was, the basic principles remain the same, but we have a very dynamic environment where we can actually apply those principles, and we have huge benefits of the technology to help us really tackle some of the challenges that we've always had. And one of the most interesting and helpful ways that AI is helping the industry is speed. And some great sessions at the summit were talking about, okay, we always wanted alerts during a crisis, right? That early warning system of alert, hang on, there's an issue, there's a red flag, something's emerging here about this topic, always important. What we can do now with agentic AI is to triage those alerts and make sure that they're connected to a response system and that we've got some guidance on how to respond to those red flags in real time. So for me, it was those two things of, okay, the basics remain the same, but we've got a lot of technology to help us evolve the way that we tackle those basic problems and basic challenges.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, because I'm an old guy. I've been in PR a long time, and in my first role in communications, we still used typewriters and mailed press releases. These things, so we've gone through so many evolutions over the course of my career, from mail to fax to email to, now all sorts of different approaches. Now we've got AI. So, but all throughout, the mechanics have changed, but the fundamentals have remained the same. It's still about relationships and messaging and reaching audiences and all of that. So I think that those of us who've been around a while can take comfort in the fundamentals remaining the same, but those mechanics do make real change in how we do things. And most of us are using AI on a daily basis. We're using all of the LLMs ourselves as tools. Our clients audiences are. And so we need to be thinking about, what does that all mean? So let's start looking at that a little bit. And as we think about this new age of GEO and LLMs and all of that, what are the fundamental changes that we need to be thinking about, particularly from the perspective of measurement and evaluation of communications?
Yeah, the LLMs, we're seeing, obviously the industry has gone through an enormous amount of hype and excitement, because over a year ago, we saw that earned media, right? That earned media, and therefore PR and comms, was more relevant than ever before because of the role that earned media was playing with LLM responses. And we're seeing, various studies, but we're seeing between 60% and 80% of all LLM responses being driven by earned media citations. So it's a huge role. Obviously, that puts us to, okay, this is very, very relevant. It's new. And traditionally, SEO, right? This was a marketing role. This type of issue was looked after by SEO. GEO is much more relevant to PR and comms. So the relevancy and the importance is there. Mm-hmm. What we then had to tackle is, how do we do this in a way that's measurable, as you say, that's repeatable? And that's a key challenge in the industry. You put in some searches, the same prompts into your ChatGPT or different LLMs. I put the same prompts in, we will get different answers. That's the fundamental challenge of the whole industry. Second challenge is that we don't know what people are putting into LLMs. No one does. It's not publicly available. That's not shared. So all providers, the whole industry, has to actually develop methodologies to make sure that we've got our prompting methodologies to be reflecting real world cases. So how normal people would be using LLMs. And that's really where a lot of the discussion is at AMEC and other industry conferences, how to actually develop methodologies to do that. Obviously, the connections to the LLMs through APIs and all those things is the easy part. The technical part is the easiest part of this, but it's really making sure that we're representing that consumer journey and making sure how are these prompts most likely being put in. And there's a number of ways that's being done. People are using search, Google search questions, autocompletes, questions going to social media. There's a number of data sets we can use to inform that process, but it's still a significant challenge. And I think one of the things that LLM research right now is facing is having to prove that it has that strength of robust methodologies behind it. We've always been talking about how important it is to be able to repeat research for it to be valid.
Right.
This is not a repeatable process. So we need to make sure that we have the most variations of those prompts. We need to make sure that we're prompting those LLMs many, many times. And when I'm talking about many times, not 50 or 100 times, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of times to make sure that we understand that the patterns and the direction that it's going.
Right. I mean, having the ability to generate consistent and repeatable results is so important. At the same time, a real challenge here is that you also have to be nimble because the whole AI space is changing so rapidly with new models coming out, it seems, every other day. And so therefore, they all may behave differently. We talk about, well, how do you show up in ChatGPT? Well, are you talking about ChatGPT 5.5 or 5.6? And if it's 5.6, is it Sol or is it Luna or whatever? And so there's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of change that's taking place. And so trying to thread that needle of finding a way to have consistent, repeatable results while also being responsive to all of the changes that are taking place, that's no small feat. And I think the whole communications industry is going to be facing this for quite some time. I don't see the pace of innovation slowing down on the AI provider side.
Chip, it won't. And as soon as we conquer this challenge, there'll be more challenges coming along. It's going to move. The ground's moving, and we have to keep up with that. AMEC launched at the summit GEO Principles, and I think these are some guidelines to anyone that's looking to measure their visibility in LLMs, but also to set up measurement and impact work of GEOs. So and how you're showing up. I think these guidelines make it very clear for people coming in that the results should be taken as a directional approach rather than quantitative hard statistics. We're used to having metrics that are repeatable, that you get the same results every time, whether that be marketing analytics or earned media measurement. We're used to that being quite solid. Here, we need to think about it more as a directional approach of what's getting cited, what's the tonality of those LLMs, what are the narratives, rather than hard and fast numbers. So the AMEC GEO Principles go through some of these challenges and how to actually approach them for clients.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the things that historically AMEC has been very good at is bringing the industry together to put together principles and fundamentals that withstand the test of time because they are not so granular that when something changes tomorrow, they no longer apply. They're really helping to guide you. And so I know that in addition to the GEO principles, there's been updates to the historic Barcelona principles that have really guided the measurement industry for a long time. And so, maybe talk just a little bit about that role of AMEC in pulling together these standards that can apply across organizations and competitors and all of that to bring some consistency and repeatability to the results that we're seeing.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. And I think the Barcelona Principles, the last time that was updated was last year. We launched that in Vienna. I was part of that working group. That included, obviously, the AMEC Academic Advisory Group, but many people from around the world that are leading in their field. So it has all of these experts feeding in the best thinking of how to measure and evaluate PR and comms. This latest iteration is the strongest yet. And I think the reason for that is because we spent a lot of time making sure that team members on the client side or agencies or measurement companies had support and resources that they could refer to strengthen any weaknesses they had in measurement. So we've spent a lot of time on the supporting materials for the Barcelona Principles. You have incredible resources, tools. AMEC board members can come and help you train your team members. There's all sorts of options if you want to elevate where you are at. We've also tried to be more accepting that everybody's at a different place, and it doesn't matter where you start. We just have to start. And there are really tangible, concrete, simple things that you can start doing. It doesn't have to be a complex project you don't have to overwhelm your team or overwhelm your clients with confusing metrics. You can really start small and work up. So I really like some of the changes to the principles that have been put in place. Really importantly, the last principle on data quality. It's if your team or if you're at a point where you are trying to get AI ready, where you're trying to really introduce AI to your workflow, you're currently using AI tools, one of the first things that comes up as a big challenge is your data accurate? Is it in shape for an AI workflow? And the seventh principle now goes into the role of data quality and the importance of that, especially with AI workflows. So we've put a lot of work into how teams can adapt to new technology. There's approaches to synthetic audiences. There's approaches to LLMs. All of this is covered as long as all of the basics, right? So how to move from using AVEs, what's the first step of breaking away from that measurement, how to look at impact, how to look at stakeholders in a comprehensive way. So yeah, Barcelona Principles, I think it packed a punch for its last update, Chip.
Excellent. And, one of the things that I'm sure came up at the AMEC Summit was, the topic of the PR and communications industry in general. I think we've gone through a lengthy period, frankly, where people have questioned the value of PR from a business standpoint. Obviously the media industry has had challenges and so the available opportunities to some degree have declined. And so people fretted, is earned media still worth it? Should we be investing there? And now with the explosion of AI, there are all these studies that seem to suggest that perhaps earned media has an increasingly important role, at least in some of the models. And so that's brought a renewed focus and a renewed energy to the PR industry. So I guess my question is, did that come up? And if so, how does that play into how we think about evaluating the success of communications moving forward?
Chip, you're right. The champagne is still flowing in terms of celebrating.
We're still relevant.
We're still relevant. We have a purpose, but we have more drive now. Earned media. We always knew earned media was important. We always knew it was important, but validating that and making sure that we had the metrics to integrate with other measurement programs, just to make sure that you could trace that through to actual outcomes and impact, has been a challenge for many. So I think the champagne is still flowing. The hype is real. Also, PR and comms are playing a really key role in AI. In a tactical level at the moment, but bringing AI workflows into an organization, they can often really help in the way that we're communicating technology transformation programs. What has come through and what came through at the summit is this idea that PR and comms, yes, very relevant due to the role of earned media in LLMs, but also as that consulting role within organizations, but as an agency as well. We see that many organizations are living through, geopolitical tensions that are causing a lot of extra workload for organizations. But we're seeing also PR and comms being a strategic voice. Mm-hmm. Especially at the C-suite level. They are often that really sort of that confidant. They play that confidant strategy advisor without potentially having that title. I think that many CCOs that we work with are in the right rooms at the right times and are incredibly influential. So there's a call from industry organizations, from PR to say, all right, let's actually move a little bit away from the tactical and play a more strategic role within the industry, move more towards a McKinsey or a professional services model where they're trying to really be more strategic rather than tactical. And I think that's a really interesting thing to acknowledge and to talk about as an industry.
Mm-hmm. As we come towards the end of our time available for this conversation, are there other key takeaways from AMEC that you want to share with the audience so that they have sort of the full breadth of the conversation, or do you think we've covered most of the key points at this point?
We have barely scratched the surface, Chip.
Exactly.
We could speak for years on this, but I would just say that if you're using traditional metrics, volume, sentiment, the reach, all of those things that are standard for media analysis or on dashboards, there are now really exciting metrics that are coming up. We're looking more and more at narratives and the impact of narratives, the life of a story beyond earned media. So we're looking at really the influence of a news article is not just about who read that. It's about where that story went afterwards. Has it triggered podcasts? Has it gone on to be amplified on social media? There are metrics that really are becoming a lot more tangible to the way that we consume media. And if you're looking to elevate or haven't quite found the right mix of metrics, I think that the industry discussions around narratives and pathways, influence pathways, offer some really great insights and metrics for clients.
Well, I think that's the great point, that you don't want to ever think of earned media itself as the end point. It's really the jumping off point to what comes next. What are those outcomes? What is the influence on audiences? The recent conversation I had with Maria Talakina, where we talked about how you marry in market research to see how that media coverage is really impacting. All of those things I think are so critical to think about, and it's becoming much more accessible both from a technology standpoint and from a practice standpoint, to make sure that you're able to follow through and get those. So I think it's a really exciting time of change and opportunity in communications broadly, in evaluation specifically, and I look forward to having more conversations with you and others around this as we move forward. But in the meantime, I want to thank you, Khali, for taking the time to share some of the takeaways from AMEC. We'll include lots of resources in the notes for this conversation so that people can dive deeper on the various principles and ideas that we talked about, and share some additional resources for you if you want to jump off and use this for your own thinking in your own organization. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I look forward to our next conversation.